I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good one. Good for grounding. I'm recording already.
Perfect.
Welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen. On this podcast, we talk about self-love, relationships, sexuality, spirituality, and more. Hi, I am your host, Celia Antonio, and I am a relationship and sexuality coach for ambitious women with a history of toxic relationships who desire to reconnect to their sensuality and who desire to feel worthy of receiving healthy love. I celebrate you for hitting play on today's episode. I hope that you find this very supportive and helpful. And if you could show some support to the podcast by hitting subscribe on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, wherever it is that you are listening to or watching this episode, it would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hi, welcome to Openly Spoken, the podcast to help you show up, speak out, and be seen in your relationships. My name is Celia. If we have not already met, I welcome you to the show, or I welcome you back to the show. And today we are going to be talking about how to feel worthy to receive healthy love. So you are here because you desire to receive healthy love. You are also here because you are an ambitious woman, you are a busy woman, and you have a history of toxic relationships. And so all of these layers give a unique kind of journey of how you can start to feel more worthy and how you can feel worthy to receive healthy love. So we're going to talk about it. And my intention with this episode is to help you slow down so that you can nourish that innate worthiness that you have within you, because it is innate and we are all born worthy. That's why you exist. And so that you can nourish that and grow that and then feel worthy of receiving healthy love. Okay, so let's see. What do I want to say about this today? This is like a topic I feel really lit up by because these are the type of people that I serve with my one-on-one coaching, and I truly love one-on-one coaching. It is my jam. It is what I'm here to do. I love it so much. And this is also a journey that I resonate with. This is the past I came from, a journey with toxic relationships, and finding my own worthiness is something I had to figure out. And it's still a work in progress. It's always going to be a work in progress, especially because relationships are everywhere. So even when you get into that grounding and that embodiment of your worthiness within your romantic relationships, you might not also have that in your relationship to money, or your relationship within friendship, or your relationship with your mom, or your relationship with your dad. Relationships are everywhere. And so it's definitely layered. It's definitely tricky. But for the sake of this video and this, if you're not watching the video, if you're listening to the podcast, for this podcast episode is going to be romantic relationships. So the first piece I want to start with is in order to start to feel worthy to receive healthy love, you're going to need to look back at what you learned growing up. What did you learn from your mom, from your dad, from peers, from school, from religion, like all the possible places you can think of? What did you learn from them in terms of what relationships are like? And I encourage you to honestly write that tip down right now and really honestly make the time to sit and journal about that and really examine what you learned from all these places in your past, because it's going to illuminate things for you. You're going to see like, oh, this belief right here, that's something I believe, and here's where it came from. But that person's not an authority on relationships. Their relationship sucked. Like, it's going to reveal things to you where it might even reveal beliefs that you did not know that you had. And then from there, so I really do invite you to write that down, maybe even pause this episode right now and seriously go into a journal and do that. Do that contemplation. Figure out what it is that you've learned from every possible place you can think of from your past. And then from there, you are going to, and you might want to honestly star this episode, because this is something I work with my clients with my high ticket clients with. So you're getting some juice right here in this episode. From there, you are going to imagine that you were raised in a tribe that really saw relationships as something very special and precious, and they really showed by the way they handled relationships. They really showed that relationships can be done in a healthy way, where everyone can show up, speak out, and be seen in their truth, where everyone is worthy, where everyone's feelings are valid. All the things, like thinking of, like imagining if you were raised in a society that operated that way. What, if you grew up in that, what would you have learned instead about relationships? Instead of all the things you did learn, what would you have learned instead? And I encourage you to write those down, and also think about, what is it that you are deciding to believe instead? Usually imagining the being raised in the tribe that did things better is enough to bring out what you are now wanting to really actively work towards, not only believing, but really feeling it in your body. Sometimes that imagining is enough, but sometimes also sitting and thinking about, okay, what is it that I want to believe? I want to believe that I can still have my own identity while I'm in a relationship. I want to believe that I don't have to be a certain level of fixed to be in this relationship. What else? What are some of the, I'm trying to think of some of the common things that come up with my clients. I want to believe that it's always okay for me to express what I desire, and that I won't be judged. And I want to believe that it's okay for me to initiate. And if my partner says no, it doesn't mean that I'm not sexy, or it doesn't mean that I'm disgusting. My partner's just not in the mood. Those are some of the things that are coming to mind based on what my clients have struggled with. But then when you write that down, so the way I just worded some things, I don't remember what I said because I was just in a flow and this is not scripted. But I know that the way I just worded some things were not worded in a way of this is what I'm stepping into, this is what I'm believing. And so that's one thing you want to be careful of when you are creating your kind of statements or affirmations, so to speak, for your relationship beliefs. And what I mean by this is, you don't want to say, I don't want to be scared to initiate. Instead, you would say, I am worthy of initiating. So you would say just the affirmative part of the statement. Let me know if that makes sense. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below. Let me know if that makes sense. Sometimes when I explain things, I'm just kind of the words are just kind of flowing out, and then I don't really know what I just said. Okay, so first is the examining what you've learned, and then deciding what you are going to believe instead. And then from there, I really want to go into the next step, which is, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, especially in the self-development space. You cannot think your way into a healthy relationship. You cannot think your way into feeling fully safe being single. You cannot think your way into feeling fully safe to receive a partner who like actually cares about your feelings when like you've never experienced that before in your past relationships. I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, you can't think your way into a new relationship. And what I mean by this is that you need to be able to fully feel it. And so to bring in the action steps I've already told you to do. By this point, you have a little statement of what it is you are stepping into instead. When you read that statement out loud, you want to fully feel it in your body. And so it can be very helpful to add descriptive words and descriptive words that like point to emotions, and to really practice feeling those emotions that version of you that you're stepping into already has. And then when you do that, there is obviously going to be resistance that comes up. And if that resistance wasn't there, you would already have what it is that you want. So the resistance is totally normal. It does not mean you are not worthy. It's just something to really actually make space for and not ignore and shove aside. We really need to. So here's another tip on how to like really feel worthy of love is you need to step into this relationship with yourself where every emotion that you have, every emotion that like arises is worthy enough of your time. Because what that is, your emotional side, it's your inner child coming up and saying, hey, I need you. And when you keep pushing it aside, whatever emotion, unprocessed emotion is within you that your inner child is holding on to, it won't ever be resolved. And then you're bringing all of that into a new relationship. And not to say that you have to be 100% healed in a relationship, because that's actually not possible. Part of the healing also happens within a relationship, because the relationship mirrors back to you what you need to work on. Relationships trigger you. And also these wounds are relational wounds, and they can't be healed completely on your own. They need to be healed within a relationship. Yeah, that little tangent made me lose my thought. I know we were talking about the inner child. So with the inner child, hold on. I'm going to take a drink of my water and maybe the thought will float on back. Okay. When your inner child is not given space to be seen, that is when we still have these unresolved wounds from our past, from our caretakers. And when we have that, then when we come into dating and relationship, we are subconsciously looking for a person that is similar to our caretaker that could not meet our needs in the first place. And we're looking for that person to meet that need that wasn't originally met. And so then when you're on the other side, where you have built a healthier relationship with yourself, and you give your inner child space to really be seen and really be heard and really be held, then that need that your past caretaker could not take care of is now soothed by the relationship between your inner child and your own inner, it could be like your higher self, it could be your inner caretakers. I personally love to connect with my inner mother or my inner divine feminine. For me, they're actually two different people, my inner mother and my inner divine feminine. But that internal relationship, what happens there then is when you come into dating, you're no longer looking for a person that is not emotionally unavailable for you. The type of people that you're attracted to changes, because you're not looking for that person that like reminds you of a caretaker. You're not looking for that person that hurt you in the first place, whether it was like, most likely it was not on purpose. So I'm not here to blame our caretakers. And the needs that you have, the needs that you are looking to meet within a relationship are completely different when you come at it from this point in your life where you and your inner child are good. Like you feel whole with them. You are listening to them. You have that healthy relationship with yourself. Because then all of the things that like really what that does is it stops codependency from happening, because you're not so like, oh, you have to meet all of my needs. You're like, I'm good. And you are no longer codependent. You're like more grounded in your body. It really quiets your anxiety. And because the needs that you were looking for before are things that you can now meet on your own, then you have different needs that are a little bit more, not a little bit, but you have different needs that are more aligned with finding an actual healthy relationship. And I guess I should give you some like actual tangible examples on like whether or not you know if this is happening. So let's see. One thing could be like if you need a partner who will like spend 24/7 time with you, and if you feel like very triggered and abandoned when they make time to go hang out with their friends without you, then you might need to nourish the relationship with your inner child. Versus if you have nourished the relationship with your inner child, you are not looking for a partner to spend 24/7 with you because you realize the value of having your own social needs met. You realize the value of having friends. You realize the value of not completely isolating yourself within a relationship. And this is both speaking from my experience of coaching, from my training in coaching, and from my personal life story. So if you are there right now, no shame or judgment at all. And you can get out of this. You are not here permanently. This is not a life sentence, and you can make it through. The first step is nourishing that relationship with your inner child. Okay. So let's go into what I wanted to share next. I'm just going to check my notes. Okay. This is very much related to the inner child. It kind of sums up like what I just said, except it's in the form of an uncomfortable truth and a really hard pill to swallow. And I might have shared this before on this podcast in a previous episode. And I'm just going to flat out say it. It's no one can unconditionally love you except yourself. Nobody can. The healthiest relationship can get really dang close, but it's impossible for them to unconditionally love you because they have their own learned expectations and past experiences of you, of themselves. They have their own stuff, their own past. It is impossible for someone to completely 100% unconditionally love you except for yourself. And this is something that when you hear it at first, it can go one of two ways. It might sound really scary and really like, what the f is she saying? You might be mad. Or it might feel very freeing because if no one else besides yourself can unconditionally love you, then there's no need anymore to look for that unconditional love outside. And instead, you can work on giving yourself that unconditional love. And then that, I have chills right now, that is going to completely change all of your relationships. It's going to, because the relationship with yourself really is that like foundational relationship. And the reason why in relationship work, like speaking of foundations, I'm thinking about like how we all come from families of origin, And I talk about the mother wound here sometimes. And the mother wound really is that first relationship that we have, that first like super close relationship we have. Typically, it's the mother because she's, who is most likely the main caretaker. And then the thing is, when you're older, the relationship you have with yourself and that like internal dialogue you have with yourself is really an internalization of your caretakers from your past. And so if you don't stop and examine what is going on in there within you, like not only in your mind, also in your heart, in your body, in your sensations, in your emotions, if you don't examine that, then you'll just continue to receive more of the same, and you'll continue to receive toxic relationships, and you'll continue to feel unworthy of healthy relationships, and you won't ever feel worthy of receiving healthy love. There's this movie quote post I saw yesterday. I'm not sure what movie it's from. I just downloaded, like, it had like 2 images. Do I recognize any of these actors? I don't recognize any of these actors, but I really loved what it said in here, and it really goes along well with what we're talking about. It says, the only way to change things is to look at everything again very slowly. And I remember the quote before this was something about like, why do you take photographs all the time? So if you happen to know what movie that's from and you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment that in the comments below. So the way to change your pattern of being in toxic relationships, whether you're done with dating and you're like, I'm just going to be single, I don't want to do this, or whether you're maybe you're in your first healthy relationship and you're like, crap, I'm really going to mess this up. Or maybe you are in a long-term relationship, but because of your past of toxic relationships, combined with how ambitious you are and what a powerhouse woman you are, you tend to fall into this tendency of prioritizing work and being productive over intimacy in your relationship. And so what you're really missing out on is connecting to your sensuality and really fully feeling worthy of receiving healthy love. And I really, really love this quote of the way to change things is to look at everything again very slowly. So that is, though, I would say that is the first step, is look at everything that you've gone through already up to this point in your life one more time, very slowly. And then create what you're moving into, stepping forward, and really fully practice not just thinking it, but feeling it, trying on that worthiness, saying out loud, I am worthy of receiving healthy love, and paying attention to your body and noticing how your body reacts to that statement, and working with what comes up. This is a fun topic. I'm going to leave it at that. And what I will do for you, if you want to kind of like continue growing this worthiness, I'm going to include in the caption or the show notes below a free PDF with journal prompts. It's called Self-Love and Sensuality Journal Prompts for Busy Women. And this PDF like really combines all of the things that you're going through with like being busy, having the past of toxic relationships, so that you can really slow down and nourish that innate inner worthiness. And then if you are listening and you are someone who resonates with this episode, but you are wanting to date, then stick around for next week. Next week, I have a dating coach that's coming on the show, and we're going to be talking about attachment styles. So that should already be on YouTube as like a premiere. So you can go over to that and click notify me, and YouTube will let you know when it's live. Yeah, so that is all for today. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Ciao.